Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Mentor Monday. Mentor Monday is your weekly microdose of encouragement, inspiration, and miracle grow on your potential as a coach. Let us know that you can hear us okay. You know the drill. If you've been here any amount of time, maybe more than one time, then you know that my hope is to always interact with you. So as you make it into the room, do us a favor. Tell us where you're joining us from, what you're excited about, where you feel life and momentum, because we want to connect with you. Let me say hello to a few people who are already saying hello to me. There's Joan, who's joining us from Bakersfield. Harvey is joining us from Florida. Let's see. And there is Teresa. Hey, how's it going? And Teresa says that we sound loud and clear. Awesome. There's Matt. How's it going, Matt? Lay, or is it Lee from Hawaii? Ebony says, I'm excited for tonight's topic. I hope so. Hopefully we'll do a good job on it. Matt's joining us from New Zealand. Is it Shanti or Shantae from South Carolina? Lynn's joining us from Vermont. If you're just making it into the room, what are we doing? We're just getting to know everybody and saying hello to everybody. So if you would, just go ahead and jump in the comments. Also like and share this, because that tells Facebook and it tells YouTube that we're doing a good job. That helps us out a lot. There's Atavia. Hey, how's it going, Atavia? There's Lynette from Virginia. Looking forward to tonight. Awesome. Anybody else like to say hello to us? Oh, it is Shantae. All right. So I was there at first. Thank you for letting me know. That's awesome. All right. Anybody else like to say hello? There's Bart. He says, let's get ready to rumble in Centennial, Colorado. Don from Atlanta. Janae from Arkansas. Very good. If you're just making it in, we're saying hello to a few people. Also, one thing that I want to do on the front end, one of the things that happened over the weekend is I was told that I'm doing a terrible job of talking about what we actually do at Life Coach Training Institute, and specifically with Jumpstart. So if you'll humor me tonight, I'm going to do a better job of that. But basically, our team has been getting a bunch of questions, and people don't even know what we offer at times, because I'm apparently not doing a very good job on Monday. So I will do a better job tonight. Marina from... I forget where you're from, Marina. Awesome. Hey, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay the bills on the front end tonight, and then we'll be able to jump in. For those of you who have not gotten trained and certified as a coach, Jumpstart, I really believe, is your ticket. Because Jumpstart is, and the reason why I don't sell or talk about our one-off course, because we do, if you just want to get trained and certified and that's it, then that's fine. We have an online, fully online self-paced program, and we also have a Jumpstart program that is a live weekend that you can get trained and certified through. But as I've found it with coaches, is that you need a lot more help than just getting trained and certified. I mean, it's fine if you already know how you're going to set up your business, or you're just going to use it as an add-on to something else that you're doing. It's fine. You don't need our help. But let me just show you really quickly what Jumpstart actually includes, just so that you know. Jumpstart includes our live weekend boot camp. We've got another one coming up in September. It's 7 sessions. Every session concludes with live Q&As and role-playing. At the end of the weekend, you get trained and certified in a single weekend. You also get your certificate. You get a unique credential ID. You get a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com. Now, if you knew what the cost of this is, definitely valued around the $3,000, $3,500 range. If you paid for it separately outside of Jumpstart, then it would be about $250. But you get it included inside of Jumpstart. Jumpstart also, if you wonder what Jumpstart is, it's our business development program. And we include brand camps for coaches. It's 13 hours of training. It's step-by-step on marketing messaging. It's how to develop your website, search engine optimization, how to write a sales page, email tools, all kinds of bonuses, how do you discover your niche, all kinds of detailed information. We also show you how to wireframe your website. We give you a lot of tools in that so that you get clear messaging, so it's really clear who it is that you help and what problems that you help people solve. Because somebody should be able to come on your social media and your website in about 30 seconds and have the answer to those questions and know what their path moving forward is. We also have just recently launched our coaching product launch blueprint. It's 8 sessions. It's over 10 hours of walkthrough, the step-by-step tools to go from zero to launching your coaching practice or launching a coaching product. We give you tools for brainstorming, product ideas, website development, social media posts, more. We also show you how to do funnels, your 14-day product launch sequence. That is included inside of Jumpstart now. But what else does Jumpstart include? Well, this is what else it includes. Jumpstart originally started just as 24 core modules, but what we did is that we beefed it up. 30 video A to Z business development roadmap. Discover your niche, attract clients. What's your weekly strategy? What are your tools for a traditional coaching practice or an online coaching practice? We show you how to do pricing, coaching agreements, how to close people, all of these things. And see, what's on top of that is that we go live every Wednesday with the students who are part of that program. So we will give you feedback on anything that you're working on. You're also in a community of coaches who are all developing their coaching practices, some of them that are absolutely crushing it in a really short period of time, because not only do you need a how-to, but you need a community of people who understand what you're doing, and you need some support rallying around you. You don't have to do this thing alone. Jumpstart's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. And that includes training, certification, all the business development stuff that I showed you. It's literally hundreds of hours of training and business development that you get for that price. It's insane, I know. When I got trained and certified, I paid thousands of dollars just to get a certificate and walk away, and was clueless of how to get a client. We take all your excuses away and we create a support system, because you don't have to guess what you need to do to be successful as a coach. We actually show you how to do that. And so I'm going to invite you to be a part of that. Let me say hello to a couple more people who have jumped in to say hello. And it's Lay from Hawaii. Awesome. Who else do I need to say hello to? Rosetta from the Great Lakes. Harvey says, Jumpstart is incredible and Mentor Mondays are the best. Thank you. Lynette says, I've grown so much because of Jumpstart and the community that comes with it. Very good. Whoever is putting your email, I wouldn't put your email inside of, I just wouldn't put my email inside of a Facebook chat. So we'll delete that, and you can contact our support team and they can help you with anything that you need. Awesome. I see someone says, I was certified 3 years ago using your coaching materials, and and I've been really successful. Awesome. Anybody else? And there's Jason. All right, very cool. All right, we're caught up. We're caught up with everyone, and here's where we're going to start, because really, if you've been with us just in the last week or so, I'm doing this series based on bad money beliefs, because I see too many coaches starting out and they're struggling because they haven't gone after this. They haven't gone after the belief systems that are actually in place. And here's what happens when you have a belief system. It really runs as a program. And so unless you actually upgrade your thinking, unless you upgrade your beliefs, you're really going to keep getting the same kinds of results. You're going to have different actions, but what precedes the actions is actually thinking in line with what it really requires to be successful. And over the next several weeks, and I do this about every year and a half, is that I go after the most common bad beliefs about money, the limiting beliefs that I see coaches constantly that come through our doors, because I've worked with thousands of coaches at this point. So we understand. We've heard all of them, and what I really designed this series is to help you overcome those things. Now, to overcome a limiting belief is actually pretty easy. And the reason why it's easy is because it's so easy to introduce doubt to something that is limiting. Because it's like you got this thing that you want to go after, but you've got a limiting belief that keeps you from being able to move forward. And if you have a belief that is limiting, whether it's about you personally or about what you think about money or anything else, it will actually prevent you from being able to get the thing that you want that's on the other side. Now, here's what I think with coaches is that it's really not about money. It's really about what money represents. That's the thing that we're actually pursuing. But if you will not go to war against these limiting beliefs, then you're not going to be successful for very long. You'll actually see self-sabotage kick in and everything else. One of the really common ones, though, that I see, because there's so many people who are in coaching that have a religious background or a spiritual background. They consider themselves either deeply religious, deeply spiritual. I was that as well. Now, some of the other limiting beliefs that I'm going to share over the next few weeks I had as well, but this was a really big one because I was very devout spiritually and everything else. And so if you think that having money is making you less spiritual and your goal is to be spiritual, you see it's a value, you know what? You're going to avoid trying to have money or making money, or that this is downgrading my spirituality in some kind of way if I have money. And so there's plenty of people, and I'm going to go to the root of this. Now, here's what I'm going to say on the front end. I'm very blunt, and I'm kind of black and white and in your face about things. Yes, I know there's a lot of gray areas. If I wanted to really take this topic, I could probably talk about it for 3 months straight and never say anything new. So I'm going to do my best tonight to give one angle on it. Now, the reason why I'm so passionate about it is because I am still very deeply spiritual and I have a relationship with God. And tonight I'm going to be very vulnerable to you with that because there's some of the things that I'm going to say tonight I've never said to anybody on this stream or really to any of my coaches unless I'm asked or anything else. But because we're talking about this, and because many of you have tuned in and you have either a religious background or you're spiritual and you've got a certain bent and you're seeing that this thing is limiting you or the community that you're around is limiting you, then we need to take that barrier out. And I'm going to try to help you do that tonight and give you some handles, but you're going to have to go to work and you're going to have to go to war on yourself and against this kind of thing to get freed up. I'm still passionate about it because I'm still very deeply spiritual. And here's what I would say, what I have found in my life on this side of things, is that in my prayer life, in my relationship with God, God literally gives me business ideas. When COVID hit and I was like, well, what are we going to do? All these other businesses are shuttering and everything else. Like, I've always had a pioneering mind when it came to what we were doing in business and also the way that I saw coaching and everything else. That we pioneered in online education and did a lot of stuff that everybody was saying, you don't do that, it's not possible to teach coaching online and all this other stuff. And no one wanted to go with us, except that I knew in my heart what we were supposed to do. I'd already seen it, you know? And then we do it. And then when COVID hit and it was like, well, everybody else is shuttering, you know what happened during COVID? We grew by 30% while other schools were going out of business. You know where that came out of? It came out of a business idea that I got when I was praying. Like, I really believe, like, this is not just some casual, I don't compartmentalize my life. This is fully who I am. God has shown up in my life and wrecked my life in such an amazing way. I have such abundance in my life, but it wasn't always that way because I actually thought that God was one of my biggest obstacles to ever having any kind of abundance in my life. I had a lot of trauma with this topic that we're talking about. I had a lot of trauma from growing up. Because I grew up in a family that was also very religious, but also people who were doing ministry. And I watched my dad struggle as much as he gave away to, in sacrifice, because I believe in sacrifice. And I will tell you, if you feel like God has told you to do everything that you do in life for free, sell your house and go penniless or whatever, I'm not going to argue with God. He's got a bigger resume than me. So if you feel like God has specifically told you something like that and you need to go that way in your life, then do it. I embrace sacrifice. I still sacrifice. There's a lot of things that I do in my life, but I also get to help people in life in a way that I never have before. Some weeks ago when this guy was saying, man, I feel like I'm supposed to go to this conference, develop myself. I've seen this guy have some financial challenges. He's got a family to support and everything else, but he had nobody, including his boss, who was willing to even invest in him. And not only did I invest in him going away for a week to develop himself as professional development, but I also helped take care of his stay, got it completely taken care of where he was going, which was several hours away. See, the Paul from years ago would have never been able to do that because I would have barely been getting by. All this to say that I'm very passionate about, and I'm a little bit like, wow, am I going to do a really good job on this? Am I just rambling already? But you know what? We're going to crush this, and I want to give you some tools tonight to help you get through. So with having said that, I want to ask you a question on the front end. And here's the question right here. The question is, if $5 million hits your bank account at midnight tonight, what are the first 5 things that you'll do? And you can throw that in the chat. I know I'm about 30 seconds ahead of you. $5 million hit your bank account tonight at midnight. What are the first 5 things that you're going to do? You can throw that in the chat. I'll probably have to jump ahead just because I'm like 30 seconds ahead of you guys. But if it does, if it hits your bank account, what would you do? Go ahead and throw that in the chat for everybody to see. Cool? Now, here's the thing about those 5 things that you're thinking of. $5 million hits your bank account at midnight tonight. What are the first 5 things that you're going to do? Now, here's what you're going to find out of the things that you're throwing in the chat and you're thinking about. Here's what it does. When you have that 5 million, whatever your answer was just now, it reveals 3 things. 3 things that we know about you from what you just said. Number 1, it reveals your heart, because what did I say last week? Money doesn't corrupt people. You know what it does? It reveals them, reveals what's really going in your heart. And so what happens is that when you start thinking about those 5 things, because $5 million usually would change most people's lives. That's why I threw 5 million. And some of the things that you guys wrote down were probably like, paying your debt. You know what that reveals about your heart is that you saw the work that people put into your life, that you have bills and everything else, and you're like, you know what? The right thing for me to do is not to get out of paying these bills. I want to take that first money and I'm going to give it to people to pay bills. Some of you, I saw some of that. You're going to do some spiritual things that you're going to give to your church, or you're going to give to a ministry. Maybe you're going to give something to your kids. Maybe you're going to give something to your grandkids. Maybe you're going to invest in certain people, fix things, help someone with a surgery or whatever. You know what all those things are telling you? It's telling you what is in your heart. It's really clear. But here's the second thing that your answer does, is that it reveals your calling. What do I mean that something is actually revealing your calling? Well, you know what it does is that it tells you what you are supposed to do on the planet. Because for certain, once you get past you giving back to people who have helped you and you get out of debt, what you start thinking about are the things that you would have given your life to if money was never an issue, how you would spend your life and how you would spend your time on humanity. That's what would start bubbling to the top. It always happens. Anytime that I have ever done this in a huge group of people, and usually I'll say, you're going to get to write down 10 things, and these are the 10 things that are past paying your bills and all of that other stuff. What 10 things? And you know what starts happening is that people start dreaming again, and you know what's in their dreams is their calling and their purpose. And money seems to suddenly get people unstuck, because one of the things that I always try to do with coaches and even people in general is to get you unstuck in the way that you're thinking in a limited kind of way. But here's the third thing that whatever you wrote down does. And you know what it does? Is that it reveals your faith. It actually exposes your faith. Now, what do you mean by that, Paul? Here's what I mean by that. And I've actually put it on here because some of you have this scripture in mind with regard to money and why it's crippling you and why you can't move forward. This is probably the most famous scripture that everybody, regardless of your spirituality, you've probably heard this. No one can serve 2 masters. You cannot serve both God and money. Anybody ever heard that one before? It's a pretty famous one. And it's why it's got some of you really stuck. But see, the reality is that it's not about money at all. It's really, what does it say? It's about serving. It's about who or what is mastering you, who's in control of your life, and who or what is making decisions for you. This is what it's revealing. See, we talked about the fact that, what did we say a while ago? It reveals your heart, it reveals your calling, but see, number 3 is that when you get money, it reveals who's the master of your life, who's controlling, who's pulling the strings. And here's an uncomfortable truth. I told you I was going to be blunt, and here's what I'm going to be blunt about. If money is informing your decision making, whether you help or withhold help, whether you are obedient, because some of you started writing down a little while ago. If I have $5 million, what did I say? It's going to reveal your calling, won't it? You'll start doing things that, suddenly I can do things. I feel permission to do things. Here's what it's revealing. For those of you who have things that were specifically calling in your life, go to another country, help a particular organization, develop a certain group of people, any of those kinds of things, I've got a scary thing to tell you right now. Those of you who have been withholding for those reasons, if money is informing your decision making, whether you help or withhold help, whether you are obedient to the calling that is in your heart, then money is your master. Here's the thing about your calling. Here's what I believe about calling. I believe that the calling that's in your heart, the purpose actually comes from God. So you know what that means? Is that if God's put something in your heart and you're not doing it because you don't have the money's your master. Because it's not about how much money you have. It's about what do you really believe and who's pulling the strings and who's dictating what's actually in your heart. Now, here's the other thing. I don't have to have a lot of money to be mastered by money. And so it's really important for us to understand if the green light to do your calling only comes when the bank account reflects it, money's already your master. I'm sorry, you've already lost. And you don't have to have a lot of money to be mastered. But see, the other thing is, for some of you, is that money isn't your master. You know what your master is? It's scarcity. Scarcity is your master. It's not money at all. Or what I would really say is it's not necessarily scarcity, but it's your view of your life and your relationship with God in this whole thing that is making you believe that God is a scarce God. That's what's going on. See, because some of you are like, well, I'll know when I have the green light and I have permission to do these things when the bank account reflects it. But you know what? Too late. Because what kind of faith is that if you can't act until you see all the numbers? Imagine all of the creation in the world of Wi-Fi, high-speed internet, high-speed railways, flight, all of these other things. If everybody waited until all the numbers and everything aligned before, it's like, I got to see it before. I wouldn't feel so scarce if somebody would help my scarcity, but that's not true. It's the way that we actually see ourselves in relationship to God, and this is why we're afraid of having money, is that some of us don't even believe that God wants us to have money. Here's the thing. The green light to do your calling, if it only comes on when the bank account reflects that money's already your master. But here's the thing. It's the thing that I often have seen as a coach over the last 20 years is that religious people are sometimes the worst at being able to see a green light in their life. And it's because of the way that they view their master. It's the way that they view God. Or let me give you another word. It's the way that they view their king. Because what most people do, and this is also the reason why some people aren't spiritual at all, because they look at the world and they look at their circumstances, they look at their struggles, they look at their pain, and you know what it does? Is that it informs the way that they see this individual. The way that they see God is seen through the lens of pain. And you know what ends up happening? Is that God ends up looking a lot more like mankind than he actually looks like God. We look at the state of the world, and listen, it doesn't take anybody with any sort of faith at all to look around in the world and say that there are problems, right? It doesn't require anything, but it does require somebody of extraordinary faith to see solutions that nobody else can see. See, there's a scripture in Matthew 6:10, and this is like the most famous prayer probably in the world. And it starts like this. It's the Our Father. You remember that prayer? And he says, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, what does this prayer even mean? Because sometimes people just pray it and they just think, well, this is the prayer that you pray, and it's kind of like a prayer that is like robotic and stuff. It's really not. You know what this prayer is all about? It's about a kingdom. It's about a king. It's about God. It's about what his priorities really are, and it's what his heart is like. And if you believe that God is in scarcity, then you don't really understand this prayer at all. Because what does it say? Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, here's what this prayer means. The first thing that it means is that the world is not like it should be. When we look around and we see messes, we have to understand these things are not God's will. When you see junk that's happening in the world, anything that you see that's off and it's messed up and everything else. See, some people look at that and they're like, well, that's probably a reflection of what God's like. Well, I don't know if you've ever thought about heaven, but heaven's supposed to be a pretty amazing place. So what we're trying to understand then is that if the prayer is, I want this world to look like that world, well, what does that really mean? Well, it means this. It means that right now, some of us are not aligning our thinking with how the king thinks and wants to work through us. And so what ends up happening is that his will is for earth to look like heaven, or as he said it in the scripture, on earth as it is in heaven. So what is that? What am I really saying in all this? It's really, really simple math. You want to do simple math with me really quickly? Here's what I understand. Is there poverty in heaven? No. Then it's got to go. Is there sickness and disease in heaven? No. So it's got to be confronted and it's got to go. Are there broken relationships in heaven? No. It's got to go. Is there trauma in heaven? No. We have to confront it. We have to see people get healed, come back into the life that they were meant to have. Are there broken relationships? Is there homelessness? Is there sorrow? We can go down the list. And this is really, really clear. Is it because if there's any conflict in your heart about what he is like, his generousness and his generosity, his graciousness towards you, then you will withhold in your life and you will think scarce. Because if I look in the world and I see all of this brokenness and pain, at a certain point, if I get caught up, you know what it does is that it warps my thinking. And I think like a mere mortal. And I start thinking like other people, like this is the way that the world is, and this is probably the way that God looks. When the reality is that I have to ask, who did he leave in charge? And I believe it's every one of us. See, there's a desire, there's a dream. You know, I told you a while ago, I get business ideas. I have for a really long time. You know what my expectation is that there's always a solution. See, it doesn't take anybody with any faith to see the problems. It takes someone who sees something that nobody else can see. I'll give you one example of that. MLK Jr. gives a speech, the famous dream speech. Now listen, if he thought like most of us have thought over the years, even religious and spiritual people, you know what religious and spiritual people used to say when I was growing up? Oh, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. One day, though, we'll be in heaven and we won't have to suffer. That's the hope for us. What if Martin Luther King Jr. had said that? What if he'd said, you know what? You know, I believe that there's going to be equality in heaven, but there's not equality right now. And it's just something, it's our cross to bear. But one day, you know what? He probably would have had a nice little church somewhere. He probably would have never gone to jail. He probably would still be living, you know, in the last like decade or something like that, last decade and a half. Because he probably wouldn't have run up against anything. And you know what? The world would not have shifted. It still would look like the world that it was then. What is it? What's the truth? Is that he took a kingdom out of that kingdom, out of heaven. He took heaven's reality and he started talking about it in a way that started grabbing and bringing hope to people. Now, there were some people who wanted to reject the message, but the reality is that every one of us have grown up, no matter what color you are. You know, I'm brown. No matter what color we are, we've all benefited because you know what's true? Is because what was true in heaven needed to be true in earth. Now, is it perfected? Has it completely manifested? No. But we can say that in one generation that we go from segregation and we go to a black man in the White House in one generation. What was it? It's when people understand who the king is and that we understand that we don't have to live in scarcity. We can think like that. We can operate like that. There's a strategy. There's ideas. There's a purpose in it and everything else. Now, if you think that the world is just your cross to bear and it's something and it's scarce, then that's the life that you're going to continue to live. And there's plenty of people who think to be in poverty and to be struggling is actually more spiritual. Well, here's a question for those people. Then why do we go to Mexico and build houses? Why are we building wells in some countries? Why are we sending food? Why do we send teams? Why do we send healthcare in those kinds of ways? And I'll tell you why. Because sickness is wrong. Poverty is wrong. And why would we? Because if you really think that poverty and all of these things make you more spiritual, then don't touch these people who are in villages and everything else. We don't want to take their spirituality away from them, do we? It's foolishness. Because we know, no, we help these people. We reach out to them. We serve them in all kinds of ways because they deserve it, because we are spiritual people. We are. It's the evidence of the faith that we actually have. And so why am I talking about this with regard to money? Because we have to understand is that if you believe in scarcity, if you believe that there is not goodness over you, that there's not a purpose to actually develop you, to grow you, for you to succeed and everything else, then you'll play a really small game. And there's plenty of people right now. You know, I watch people in ministry. I watch people from churches. I watch people from pastors that used to be pastors and everything else struggle. And they come in and they're like, they act like they can't ask for money. They devalue themselves and everything else. And here's the thing. I totally believe in sacrifice, and I totally believe in helping people. The important thing for us to understand is, how do you want to help people? Do you want to struggle and barely get by and help just a few people and they still continue struggling? Because one of the realities that happened for me is when I went to this church thing some years ago. And I remember I was sitting in the room and they were like, if you need financial breakthroughs, stand up so we can pray for you. You know what? I stood up and I looked around and almost 100% of the people in the room were standing up with me. And I'm like, man, this is not good. But you know what? What did not happen, there was not some financial miracle that happened because people prayed for me. You know why? Because it wasn't going to change what I thought up here. And it wasn't going to be changing my belief about him or what I believed was I was deserving or any of those other things. So I still helped people, and I struggled as I helped people. And I helped a few people, but I didn't really get them up to the next level. It's kind of like, well, I'll give you what I have. But what if, rather than struggling to help people, that we actually thrived? What if we thrived and our family thrived, and what that meant is that I can actually hire people and I can get them on a livable wage. And then they can see the value in what they're contributing to the world so that they develop, and then maybe their kids do better than them. Maybe they go to college. You know what? The reality is that there will. One of the things that some people would argue is that, well, you know, Jesus said the poor would always be with us. Yeah, he did say that in the context of people spending a buttload of money on something that they didn't think that they should be spending money on. When people are calling him out and acting like they were being wasteful with their money, he's like, listen, the poor are always going to be here. That's the context of that thing. So the reality is that I want to be in a position where I can serve more, and I can actually bring the high water mark up for everybody. And that requires us to be people of extraordinary faith. And extraordinary faith does not look like, oh, well, I'm hoping that a miracle comes through. What it really means is that I see opportunity. I see solutions. I don't see problems, and I don't wait for somebody else to bail me out. I also don't vote for politicians that I think are going to save the day, because they're never going to. We have more knowledge and we have more information in the world. Tag, you're it. You are the hope of the world. And this is who we've got to be, is that we've got to come into this stream and this line of understanding is that grace isn't eluding us. Tag, you're it. We're these kinds of people. And I want to be in a position right now. I want more money. I need more money only because of what it represents. My whole life that I give away right now is all about developing, and most times going after the mindset that's preventing people from being able to be successful. That's what I've given my life to for decades now. And I believe that we've got to position ourselves so that we can maximize that ability to help people. Listen, there's plenty of people out in the world who don't have any morals, and they've got tons of money and everything else, and they're getting richer. What we need is some people who are solid in their hearts and have extraordinary faith and have high morals, that you know what you're here on the planet to do is to leave a mark that is going to extend well past your lifetime. That's how we understand who we are. Is that my lifetime? You know what? If you made more money right now, do you realize that you could send antibiotics to a country where they're dying of sickness and disease, of things that we've been able to easily treat for like 50 years now? You realize that? This is why you need to make more money, so that you can invest in those kinds of things, so that you can send people into those places, so that your kids and their children have something greater to look forward to in their life, so that you can leave a mark in your city and not just volunteer for free, but that you can actually create something that's really sustainable, that permanently shifts people's lives. These are the things that we've got to kind of look at and that we've got to look forward to. And we can start dreaming and thinking in these kinds of ways. So we have to have some belief shifts. So let me give you some handles on that. Your belief shifts about you have to be, first of all, is that your work is worthy of being paid because it's primarily how you add value to people. One of those big shifts is understanding is that money is just a certificate of appreciation. Work is a blessing. I am so thankful for work. You know, if everything was perfect in the world, you would still have a job to do, because you were never made to be just somebody who is sitting around doing nothing. You're actually made to create and to build and to cultivate things around you. That's in your design. Now, what you get when it comes to money is just a certificate of appreciation. That's all it is. And so you should never feel unworthy to take, even if it's serving other people, primarily as a coach, is that that's all that is that you were made to contribute. You were made to build things. And you know what? If you're not getting paid to do it, you won't be building things for very long, or you won't be building much. You'll be starving, is what you'll be. Another shift that you're going to have as a belief shift is that there is no sacred or secular in life. There's just life. See, some of you are dealing with an unholy divide in your life. There is no secular and sacred. There's just life. For those of you who come with a Christian faith, if you follow any of those early people, they all had jobs. Jesus himself had a job as a carpenter. You know that he was fully Jesus when he was a carpenter and when he was teaching, that there was no division in him. He wasn't doing, work that didn't matter over here. It was all equally the same. And this is what we have to understand, is that we're spending a lot of time in work. We have to understand that everything that we do is sacred in life, because there's a purpose that's behind it, because you don't do anything that's purposeless. Third thing that I would say, and it's a belief shift that you have to take on, all decisions that I make are spiritual decisions that involve my faith and who I believe God is. It's an important thing for us to understand. There's nothing that you don't decide that's not informed by something deeper that's going on in your heart. And so we treat every decision. We don't compartmentalize. Like Westerners, Americans are so great at compartmentalizing things. We don't compartmentalize our faith because it informs everything. Our spirituality informs everything. The reason for some of you that God's not giving you business ideas is that you never talk to him about it. I realize sometimes I'd get interrupted and I'd be like, wow, I'm just having all these random ideas that are going on when I'm trying to be like all focused and holy and spiritual over here. And then it finally dawned on me, oh, he's talking to me. I better write this down. I better pay attention. See, God will talk about anything. You may give you a crazy story. I'll give you a crazy story, and I'll either gain credibility with you, or you'll think I'm weird, or I won't have credibility, and you'll check out. So, a few weeks ago, this is probably about 5 weeks ago, I saw a friend, and we're at this big place or whatever, and I saw him across the way, and I was over there like minding my own business, doing my thing, and I was like, I need to just say hi, because I saw him, and I know he saw me across the way. When I'm leaving, I'm just when I leave, I'm just going to say hi to him really quick, just to be like, hey, I'm being nice or whatever. So I'm headed over there, and then all of a sudden I feel in my spirit, Paul stopped, because he was talking to some older lady. And it was just like, stop. And it was like, well, I'm just gonna just say hi to him really quick and not interrupt. That way it'll actually make it easier for me to walk away. But I felt like this stop. And I'm like, okay. And so when I'm sitting there, I see him talking to this older lady. And so this guy's over there talking to this older lady, and in my spirit, I wouldn't say I heard it out loud. I heard it internally. She has cancer and she just found out. And I'm like, wow. And so I'm just standing there and I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do about this except not interrupt? Because obviously there's a conversation and I'm some random person that obviously this person doesn't know. So anyway, after that's over with, then I walk over there, and of course that guy's like, hey, good to see you, ha, 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 you know, and do the niceties. And I was like, hey, that lady you were just talking to, she was gone by that point. What condition did she have? And he said, she has cancer. She just found out 2 days ago. And I said, I know, because I just heard that. Let me tell you something that's crazy, is that we ended up getting to meet up with her. We prayed for her. She's cancer-free 3 weeks later. That's what's going on. Is that God will talk to you about anything. He'll set up moments, but it's all about the scarcity. See, because I didn't see things like that most of my life, but I saw it now. And where's it all come from? It all comes from who you believe that you are and who are you in relation to who you think that God is. Because everybody who's sitting here right now has a theology. Whether you are an atheist, whether you're into Buddhism, whether you're into Christianity or whatever, every one of you have a theology. And maybe you're your own God or whatever. Well, listen, if you're your own God, then hey, more power to you. You go do it. You don't have any excuses. Just go do it, because you don't have to ask any questions. You can just go for it, right? For the rest of us, we have to understand is that I think that when we get into that place of heaven, I think that when we have this reality from right now, this natural reality, and we go into that, I think that we're all going to realize how much we left on the table and how small that we were actually playing and how much God really wanted to talk about and open the door for us, but we were too scarce in the way that we saw ourselves and the way that we saw who he is and the way that we could show up in the world. And I'm just encouraging you. I could tell you story after story. I could literally spend the rest of this time telling hundreds, probably thousands of stories at this point of the crazy encounters and different opportunities that have arisen. And I expect to see more. And the reason why I expect to see more is because I'm growing in my understanding that I'm not scarce because of who I belong to. And because he's not scarce in the way that he's thinking and that he has goodness, but he doesn't have just goodness for me. Like, listen, I'm just going about my day, and things happen like they did a couple of weeks ago for this lady. You know what it meant? It meant that her life's being extended. Because what ended up happening is like, okay, well, would you go tell this lady that this happened? I know this is kind of weird or whatever. And what she did, she thought her life was over with. She's kind of like, man, life's been so hard. I wanted my life to be over with. But you're telling me my life's not going to be over with. Just a few days ago, I got that text. PET scan results are clear, and I'm not going anywhere. Almost 80 years old. You know what? That life's not over with. That story's not over with yet. Because you know why? Because that was not what was going on up there, so it needed to be true here. We get to be a part of extraordinary miracles. The same miracles when we start creating jobs for people, because it all matters, because it's all spiritual. Create jobs. Sometimes it's just sending money places. Sometimes it's opening opportunities for people to learn to read. Sometimes it is healing people's trauma. Sometimes it is sending antibiotics to some other country that we're never going to visit. I have some friends that the other day they went all the way to Romania to help people in the Ukraine. You know, these are the kinds of things, and these are the people that we get to be. But you know what? We need more money to be able to do it. I don't want to be afraid of it because I want to maximize my ability. I need to make my life count. You know what? We all need more because we've got more business to do. Quit playing small and expect more. Let me give you a few more things as handles. Sorry, I told you a story that I didn't plan on telling you guys. My place of service is primarily my paid job. This is what you guys have got to understand. A lot of you are trying to find your purpose outside of your regular full-time job, and you're primarily primary calling is going to be inside of where you're giving your life to. This is why I want many of you to become coaches. Listen, if your life right now is not life-giving and you know you're supposed to do something else, this is why we're all coming into coaching, is because we can live in our sweet spot, in our lane, and that we know that our calling and our vocation are actually aligned. But what we have to understand is that my place of service, serving people, is primarily going to be in my job, not in what I'm doing over and above. Like, I need to do this job to pay the bills, but I have to serve over here for free. That's bogus. Your vocation and your service are one and the same. Here's the next thing. Getting paid does not devalue my service to humanity or make me lose my reward. Some of you are thinking, wow, I won't be rewarded by God. Listen, that is a scarce idea about God. Because you need to be rewarded because you are serving. The better I serve people, the more I'm rewarded. I value others, and I show them worth by not asking for or expecting discounts. It's one of the things that I do. It's one of the things that I practice. The more money I make, the more I create opportunities for others. Super important. What are all these things? I'm giving you affirmations that you can begin speaking and that you can begin saying over your life. I want you to have handles. You know, like I said, I could probably spend 20 weeks going at war against some of these things and why they're there, but the reality is that we've got to go to war with them ourselves. And at the end of the day, you're going to choose who you believe that God is and who you are in relation to that. And the smaller that you are, the smaller the game is that you're going to play. The bigger that you understand what your calling and your purpose is, and his graciousness to give you more so that you can be expanded and that you can help people more is going to increase. So here's the deal. Having money doesn't necessarily mean that you are more blessed than someone else. That's not what I'm saying. But I want to be in a position where I can be stewarded, so I can steward more, because it is going to maximize my ability to help other people. All these things, I would just really encourage you. You want to go to war against those old thoughts. Anything that's making you play small right now, you don't have to play small. You can do this thing. You know, and even if you're late in life, it's not too late. I'd say that the biggest portion of my life, I played small and we struggled. My family struggled and my kids struggled as a result of me struggling. But all that's changed. And now I'm really in a position now that it's kind of like, wow, well, how am I playing small now? What's that faith question now? Because the more that you get, the more is required of you. And so that's the next bigger question. Some of you are having some success. Some of you have had it in your life. Well, what's being required of you now? Probably a bigger step. Because here's the thing, is that having money does not mean that you have less faith. Having money is, well, now you've got more to lose, and are you willing to take the risk? Because I spell faith, R-I-S-K. It's the best way that you can spell faith and understand it. Hey, thanks for listening to me. Let me pay the bills really quickly and say hi to a few people who are in here. But let me pay the bills really quick, and then I'm going to look in here. Jumpstart is what I'm inviting you guys all to be a part of. Some of you are in here. You've never even heard me say any of the things that I said today. But I thank you guys for being around. Jumpstart's $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. Everything that's included in here, go through it really quickly. The link is inside the description if you want to enroll today. The Live Coaching Bootcamp, it's a weekend of training where you can get trained and certified as a coach. There's 7 sessions. They're all live. You can also do this program self-paced as well. There's live Q&As at the end of each one of those sessions. There's role-playing. You can get trained and certified in a single weekend. Yes, you do get certified. You get a certificate. You get a unique credential ID. We host your credential for you. We also give you a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com. That's usually a separate program. We throw it in Jumpstart, and you can have access to it. Brand Camp is what we develop just simply to develop your marketing messaging. It's 13 hours of training, step-by-step on your marketing messaging. We show you how to develop your website, search engine optimization, how to write sales pages, emails, how to write better emails, how to get a better open rate on your emails, how to wireframe a website, like literally everything with regard to branding and how you're going to put yourself out there in front of the world is all included in here. And again, it's another course that's available under Jumpstart. We also have the coaching product launch blueprint. And what we give you in this is 8 sessions. It's over 10 hours of walkthrough of all of the tools to go from zero. Any product that you're wanting to create, go from zero to launching a product. Brainstorming, product idea, website development, social media posts, all of that stuff, funnels, and we give you the 14-day product launch sequence. All of that is included. Again, this is another program that could be worth thousands of dollars. We're giving it to you under Jumpstart. And Jumpstart, again, is a 30 core modules. It's the A to Z on how to develop your coaching practice. Everything from how do you discover your target market, your niche, attract clients, sell, close clients, all of those things, coaching agreements, everything on the business side. Everything's included in there. We supplement all these things. For every Wednesday, we have a live group coaching call where I go live with the students who are part of that. We also have an extraordinary community of people, the best people on the planet that are geniuses, that are at differing stages of launching their coaching practices, and we all help one another. There's celebration that goes on there. People show up at people's events. They, as far as their online events, people from all over the world, as far away as Germany and all throughout the United States, where people are actually working together, celebrating one another's success. And you know what you need? Because you need the support. It's not just simply the how-to. You need the accountability and you need the support. That's what Jumpstart offers. $97 a month. Most schools are charging you thousands just to get trained and certified. $97 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. You can get all those things. One of my commitments is what I always tell our coaches. You never have to feel bad about charging people when you give more value than they will ever pay for. You're not going to come close to paying for the value that we have. I don't make any apologies, and I don't feel bad about it at all. I know what this program is worth, but I also know what you are worth and what your calling is. And so I'm willing to make that investment, but you got to meet us halfway, which means that you need to click that link, get enrolled. It'll take you about 90 seconds to get enrolled, and you can join us. Cool. Let me jump in here and say hello to a few people. Laquita says, Jumpstart changed my life. Literally, I'm a better coach today because of Paul and the amazing coaches in our community. Thank you. Ebony says, I signed up for Jumpstart. Cool. Let me see if there's anybody else I need to say hello to. Lynn says, this Mentor Monday really resonated with me. Cool. I'm very happy with that because I really put myself out there today. So, and we'll be on to other topics next week. But thank you guys for sticking with me. Diane says it's a great deal and helps the business with an easier start. Thank you for doing this today. You are so welcome, Lay. Greg says Jumpstart's absolutely worth it. Laquita says, make the investment in yourself. You will not regret it. Teresa says, that is exactly what I needed to hear at this moment. It was truly a God moment. Very cool. So appreciate that. Greg says, great session. Awesome. Harvey says, this is amazing, Paul. Please keep giving this. No reason to hold back. Thank you. See, thank you, Jesus. Yes. Isn't that awesome? Wasn't that a cool story? See, there's no coincidences with God. Cool. Ruth says, God is a miracle worker, and that's a blessing. Ebony said, this is why I chose LCTI. There's no doubt that God led me to this organization. So thankful. Thank you, Ebony. I appreciate that. Joan says, love your encounter with God. Thank you. Jen says, the Holy Spirit is my business partner. Business partner. He helps me build well. I'm simply a steward making his resources efficiently. Oh, Matt says, I am a pastor and oversees missionary community development for 13 years. Way to go. In Asia, I've spent my life serving others for free. I raised all the donations for myself and my family. I already have your coaching certification. I want to start your Jumpstart program. Awesome. Very cool. All right. Jen says some church folks look down on us that teach financial principles, touting money should not be the focus of our business. God has gifted and called me to teach these principles, financial freedom. Absolutely, and that's the thing. One of the things that we always have to be careful about in all of this is realizing that a lot of times people are speaking and they're seeing through their own trauma with money. And so, just even in what you're doing there, is to help people come into wholeness in these things, because that's the whole point of this entire series. Is because I realize that there's a lot of people who, we've got these things that are in the way, and if we can confront them and come into wholeness and see money as a tool, and that we're not a servant of money, but that we become masters of money and we use it to serve us. And I believe that that's really all of our role. And you guys are going to run across this as you're coaching people, because that's going to come up a lot. All right, let me see. I'll definitely watch this again. Thank you. Joan says, such a heart check. Thank you for being blunt and honest. Thank you for that. Let me look, see if there's any other things I'm getting down here. All right, going through. Oh, thank you, Laquita. Appreciate that. Matt says, thank you for taking the risk. Awesome. I appreciate it. All right, everyone. Well, it's getting really hot in here. It's like 80 degrees under all these lights and stuff. So I will probably bring it to a close. Thank you guys so much for all your encouragement and support in all of this. Those of you who are still in the room, and you know what, you're a spiritual person, you know what? Run really hard. Maintain your heart. I know what it's like to be out there serving people, and sometimes your heart takes a beating along the way. And it's easy to lose heart when you're out there trying to do the right thing, and sometimes there seems to be pushback, and sometimes there's difficulty and everything else. I'll say it on this end. Where else would I go except that every morning I know that I've got a purpose. Every day I know that I have a purpose. Every night I know that I have a purpose. And it makes all of the difficulties and challenges that go along the way, because you know what? We're all in the people business. And you know what? Sometimes you're going to be hurt by the people that you love the most. And but you know what? It's the most rewarding work that we could ever do. Be thankful for all of you who are here today that see yourself as a spiritual person, or you're a person of faith, is that you never have to question whether or not you have purpose and you have significance in this world, because it's all wrapped up into who we are. So run really hard. Be as generous as you possibly can. Try to outgive God, and be in one thing that you all have permission for. You guys all have permission to see if you can find the boundaries of God's love and his goodness towards you. And I dare you to go to try to find that boundary every day. One thing is for certain, you're never going to find the boundaries of it, and you'll find more grace than you ever thought possible. And I don't think that any of us are ever going to get to heaven and hear, wow, you were really presumptuous about how good I was. What did you think you were doing out there? None of us are ever going to dare hear that thing. And so live boldly, live bigger, take risks, and then watch what ends up happening. As somebody said a while ago, there's no coincidence. It's going to be amazing when you see the coincidences start to stack up to the point that, wow, there's no way that this could be a coincidence. But here's the thing, is that you can't just keep living in the comfort zone of where you're at right now. Invite yourself and feel the permission to say yes, and to go and to go beyond. You know what? The worst thing that could happen is something fails, it doesn't work out, and what happened is that you learned and you grew from it. That's the worst thing that could possibly happen. But the reality is that you're going to actually find your life, and you're not going to be led by fear anymore. Wherever you have fear in your life is where you haven't actually encountered the love of God. And that's where, so wherever you have fear in your life right now, wherever you're afraid, run to that place. You know what you're going to find there? You're going to find an encounter with God there every time that you go there. And it's extraordinary. So with that, I'm going to assume that that's pretty much all I've got to say for today. So listen, I appreciate you guys sticking around. You're all amazing. We went in a little bit of overtime today, but you guys are incredible. Hey, we're a message and email away. I appreciate you guys. Have a great rest of your week and take care.